Hi, everyone. This is Catching Up with the Nerds with your hosts, Tom and JC, and our special guest, David. This is a podcast about two dads that are catching up on all the nerdy stuff we miss, sharing how we pass on our nerdy passions to our kids, and deep diving into nerd pop culture to make it more accessible for you guys. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Wow.
How's everyone doing?
All right.
Shall we
again.
Shall we do intros?
Yes, Dave. Ladies first.
I'll kick things off. No problem. Hi, I am David Sago. I mostly podcast produce and edit these days. I have my own podcast, the Grit and Grime Basketball Podcast, which I am on with Tom.
Hey.
But I am also a nerd. I'm particularly a fan of Marvel. And I got into a bunch of 90s cartoons, being a late 80s baby and all of that. I also dabble a little bit in anime from time to time, and obviously TV, film. But my biggest area of nerddom, if you want to call it that, is computer games. So I think that's all.
Good day. All right. I am Tom. 50% of the Catching Up with the Nerds podcast, along with JC. I'm 100% French, and I've been living and sharing adult life, with my other half, Ellie, who's about 20 years now. Whew, that takes us back 20 years this year. Can you believe? That's how old I am. I've got two kids, one who's 4, named Louis, a boy, and an 11-year-old girl, Emily, and they are both also nerds, as they've been hugging on the Switch for the last couple of days playing Mario, which is a proud moment for all of us here in the family. I love video games, I love movies, I love WandaVision, and I want to talk about it forever and ever, but it has to stop at some point. That's it.
Nice. So I am Juan Garay. I am the other 50% of the podcast, but everybody calls me JC. And my nerd origins start in Honduras, moving swiftly on to London and now Portland, which is now my nerdhood. My nerdy wife is Fiorella, and my two nerds spawn have been Arabelle and Aiden. And my nerdomness, or my nerdhood, my nerd kingdom maybe, lies in graphic novels, comics, and nerdy movies and series, and occasionally dabbling in the world of video games, and definitely into the world of anime. So back to our regularly scheduled nerdy cast here.
Hey, and for those who celebrated the Valentine's, I hope you had a lovely nerdgasm. Anyway, so see what I did there? We're keeping that in. We're keeping that
live or behind the scenes stuff.
Right. So
we do share one brain at times. I fail, dude.
Sometimes we do. It is Monday.
Yes.
Sunday. And what do we do on Mondays? We talk about WandaVision, which happened on Friday, every Friday for the rest of our lives. It feels like it. Right. What's the format, you're going to ask? Yes, you're asking that. What's the format?
What is the format, Tom?
Cool. Well, we're going to talk about aesthetics first, and then JC is going to walk us through the episodes. No, wait. No, JC is going to talk about the episodes first, walk us through it. And first in a 3 sentences or 3 words about what he thinks the episode was, and then in details. And then we're going to go through our Easter eggs that we've noticed, and then talk about theories, which is a fun part. Yes, it's the best. What did you guys think about the episode? I think it's the first question we are asking every week now. What was your take? How did you feel about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
I'm gonna go first. I don't know. I felt a bit indifferent after this episode. Shame. And I don't know why. Plenty clearly happened. There was some really interesting moments, but I don't know, it might just be me, to be honest. But something about this episode just didn't quite give me the same excitement that I've had after the last few. And I was talking to a friend about it. Shouts to Michael Downey. I think part of it might be because as JC said, we're entering the third act now.
Yep.
Things are going to start concluding. And I think that means that we've gotten so many answers that part of the mystery is going a bit. And we'll talk theories at the end, but I think as you get more and more answers, it's like shutting down and closing off all these theories and focusing in on what's actually the issue here. And I think part of me might be sad that it seems a lot simpler and a lot less grand than I had theorized and I had hoped.
It's funny. I think I was kind of the same as the episode finished. And I was like, oh my god, what just happened? I think there's two things that got me. I think the first thing was the speed of the episode, as in there were a lot of things happening back to back, and it was like we did get a bunch of answers in the last episode, I think, or the last two episodes, and this one, it was a bit like, the brother is here, and then he's saying one thing that you're like, oh my god, and then another thing, and he's questioning and doing a bunch of things that are like, oof, keeps coming and coming. And I think that the rhythm was super fast. And saying that, it felt like the episode was super short. And I think that's my main issue these days. When it's like the half an hour mark gets there real quick, and that's pissing me off. Every week I was like, the first 3 weeks I was like, yeah, awesome, that's super fast. We'll next week we'll get to it, and I'm like, I want more. I want a 1 hour episode. And I think that's where it was. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the episode. I thought it was cool. But it's clearly setting up the final act, that is going to be more maybe action packed, less answers. So maybe the next episode might be a lot more actions and explosions and stuff like that, and not as maybe setting up a few more questions, asking a few more questions, but maybe not necessarily solving any mysteries in the next couple. And I think the last episode hopefully will be a longer one in terms of duration. And might be like a big, like they did at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, when it's going to be one big final twist, and you're going to be like, oh no, got to black, and you're like, So that's what I'm hoping for. We're in the end game now. Anyway, we are in the end game.
Yeah. So following from that, funny enough, I've got mixed feelings about this episode, because from a format perspective, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought that the balance of like being in the sitcom versus being in the outside world, I actually thought was really good. Like, I felt like the transitions were very natural when they kind of broke apart, and they gave us more time in that sitcom setting. Whereas last time we kind of got robbed a little bit of the 80s. This time we got to spend more time in the sitcom. But I agree with you. It's like, it felt like a lot happened, but it was meaningful, but I didn't care as much for some reason about what's happening. Like, I don't know why I didn't care. And part of me feels that, to your point, going back to like this setting up the third act, it is a setup episode, because a ton happened and it set things up. And now it's like, there's no coming back for some of those characters. And I think that's the part that I mainly looked at, that for some people, all right, now there's implications to this. Because at first, really, it was like, the implications weren't that bad. It's like, well, Wanda's doing her thing. And up until we found out that some of these people were in actual pain, there was like an implication to all this. That was the only thing that really mattered at that point. Because everything was like, yeah, well, let her do her thing, man. Kind of buzz off. Go do sword somewhere else. But now it's like, okay, no. To your point, we're in the end game. Something big is going to happen. And I'm just curious, to your point about the pacing of it, that I really, really hope that it's not. And look at the big bad in the final shot of the episode. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah. That would suck.
Like they've got to earn that. I've got. Anyway, so we can get into that when we get into themes and theories. But I feel that needs to be earned a bit more, and they've got 2 episodes to do it.
Right.
Yeah. What, 3? Is that another 3? Well,
and the third one.
Yeah.
That's when we'll get it. Unless we get a surprise 4th. Awesome.
You're still hoping for that. Another drop, a secret drop.
I agree with your point about frustrating like ends, because at first that standby screen was actually like, I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's really authentic. And now every time I see that standby screen, I'm just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
on. Like, don't give me more standby. Like, give me extra 15 minutes. Come on.
I have to hold Emily back every time, otherwise she's gonna headbutt the TV. She's like, God, like she did. I think she almost had a meltdown on Friday when we saw the Please Stand By. She went, no. So please, Marvel, please make it longer. Make it an hour. Make it 45 without the end credits, because
I know. Honestly.
I need more.
I need a little more. All
right, JC, do you want to walk us through the plot?
Let's do it. All righty. So the 3-liner of the week. Pietro. So 3-liner, for anybody who's new to the podcast, I do usually a 3-line introduction to the episode plot and try to get it down to just 3 succinct lines in a very, very specific way. All right, here we go. So Pietro does his best Jim Carrey impression. Classic. Agent Wu gets to kick butt. And Darcy's going to be a mutant, man. It's like she's in the field now. She's going to be a mutant. I am so here for that. So that's my 3-liner. Like,
I agree.
That's
nothing else happened. Let's wrap it up.
All right. So here, I'm going to try to whiz through this because a lot happened in this episode. We start with the Malcolm in the Middle intro. Clearly Malcolm in the Middle, no confusing it with anything else. We break into kind of a Halloween scene, and immediately we are greeted with like fourth wall break, man. It's like all of a sudden MCU is fourth wall breaking. Like, so here for that, like super nice. Then the kids are starting to pick up on some of the awkwardness happening between the parents. I'm like, they're realizing, things aren't going well, and they're telling you, the audience, which is really interesting. We also find like Hayward and Monica begin to argue because Hayward's just being his most Hayward, and his middle management thing is becoming really annoying now. Then Hayward then decides to kick them all out with Darcy and Agent Wu. On their way out, they beat up the guards, and Agent Wu wins a fight. Boom. It's up there with like Cap getting Mjolnir. It's like, it really is up there for me. And then we see Pietro helping the kids do trick or treat, and that whole sequence was just super fun. It's like he's getting into all of these problems because he's doing like the super speed thing, like stealing candy from people, all that stuff. But at one point, he calls them demon spawn, which let's put a pin in that one and we'll come back.
Yep.
Vision also says he's going out. I believe it's for a neighborhood watch. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And then, but clearly he isn't. And then Scarlet Witch, Wanda, runs into Herb, and then they have a conversation. She realizes that that's not what Vision's doing. In the meantime, Vision is walking around and just trying to explore. Both him and Wanda are wearing costumes that are very similar to like the 60s and 70s runs of those characters, which was super cool touch. He's walking around the silly outfit, and then he sees people like stuck in loops. Right. And he sees like a woman, like where there's like, she's stuck in a loop of like hanging clothes, and then like a tear runs down her face. So after that, we get the super weird commercial we have to talk about, the Yo Cup, the Yo Magic yogurt cup commercial. Very interesting. Then Wanda then comes back, and we see the first time like Wanda beginning to question things as well. So she's questioning Pietro, Pietro's questioning back. They're both asking questions that the whole audience has been wanting to ask, right? About like the accents. You can tell there's a little bit of tension between them. Pietro full out says like, I'm here for tension, to create something of a contradiction, right, between what we're trying to do. And then he sees him. So he remembers getting shot, and then tells Wanda that he heard her call him when he got shot. So there's kind of a callback to Ultron. And then the twins go off, and we start to see the twins have powers. One's clearly becoming Wiccan, the other one's clearly becoming Speed. And one of them like zooms off, and Mom goes, "Don't go past Ellis Avenue." Another one, stick a pin in it. We're coming back to that one. Darcy as Darcy. I feel like Darcy is like the Deus Ex Machina of this show. Like he just comes up at these moments with like the perfect solution to everything. And she's like, I'm just going to casually hack Sword. And then she hacks Sword. And then she finds a code name, a project code named Cataract, which shows that they are tracking Vision. And then she sees that some people barely move that are being tracked within the hex, and that's also very telling. We then connect that to what Vision has been seeing in terms of people just like hanging out in these loops. At that point, Vision flies up, has a good view of the lay of the land, and actually flies down to, guess where? Ellis Avenue. drops down there where he runs into Agnes, who's stuck at a car next to a stop sign. Which we may come back to that, may or maybe not. He then decides to wake her up, and then we get the moment where she looks at him and goes like, "You're an Avenger," and he has the best reaction. He's like, "Yes, I want to help. What's an Avenger?" and Paul Bettany delivers that so well. It made me so happy, that part of the episode. So he doesn't know what he means, but then she gets stuck in this loop of, well, it's not even a loop, but she just says it over again and over again in a really awkward fashion of just like, "You're dead, and then does like the creepiest witch laugh ever. So she's also acting her pants off, man. Then he feels bad and then turns her off or on or off again, whichever we want to see it. And then Monica at the same time gets a text from an aerospace engineer saying that they might have an option to get back into the Hex. Who's that going to be? Theories waiting to come. And then Monica's blood is now confirmed that has been affected by the Hex by going in and out twice, or at least we think that the twice has an effect. Maybe it was the first time. We don't actually know that yet. And then Pietro does ask where all the kids have been because they clearly weren't in the town, and there's like no good answer for that. And then Pietro goes into this really weird monologue of like justifying Wanda's actions towards the town of just like, some of these people's lives are actually better. And then she begins to question a few things and then sees him dead the same way she saw Vision dead. Another theme there we can come back to. Darcy finally finds a secret file that we don't know what that is. It's on top of, in addition to the Cataract Project. And then Vision pushes through the boundary, and we get the really kind of like the scene stealing moment of the whole show of just like Vision breaking down outside the boundary, clearly not being able to remain himself outside the boundary. He's actively being pulled back. At the same time, Wiccan, or I believe it's Billy, has a feeling that something's happening to Vision. Wanda then tries to figure out where he is, recognizes where he's at, and then what she does is expand. And before that, sorry, Pietro does make a crack about your husband couldn't die twice, could he? And which gets super dark. She gets super upset and just kind of zaps him away. Darcy gets handcuffed to the car as they're trying to like figure out what's going on with Vision, and then Wanda expands the boundary, and it just keeps going, covers Vision. We can see him coming back to reality. It covers all the tents, makes him into like the circus performance sort of thing, but that looks more in place in like the 50s and 60s for some reason, rather than like that Malcolm in the Middle moment of like the early 2000s. And then everything changes. Hayward gets in the car, rushes off, and there you have it.
And then please stand by.
And please stand by. And then we're at that point hitting ourselves against, exactly. At that point, we're crushing the TV from the cliffhanger they left us on. So we shall see.
There's so much happening in this one. It's just unbelievable. Let's rewind then. Let's rewind and go back to the beginning. I think we'll go a little bit into how it is shot, how it looks like, how it feels like, which I think, so you mentioned the introduction is Malcolm in the Middle, which is funny because I have actually never watched a single episode of Malcolm in the Middle. That was not on my radar at all. And this is where on our notes I put it looked like MTV. Actually got me more into thinking there was an episode of MTV Cribs, if you watch that, because they had the same sort of intro with the camera work and the high energy and the crazy fonts and the great. So, and I had to Google it. I was like, hang on, what was that intro about? And yes, Malcolm in the Middle. It's literally almost shot by shot, Malcolm in the Middle, if not shot by shot. And then if you pay attention to the lyrics, same thing than last week, it's all make-believe, it's all false, but let's live in that fake reality sort of lyrics. Anyway, Malcolm in the Middle, that was interesting. Very MTV vibe, I think, to me, like 90s, 2000, early 2000 vibes. I think it was... which I enjoyed because that's when I started learning English, and that's when I started watching TV channels that were not French. So it's quite interesting to see. And then technically, I think we saw different type of shots, which were now one camera action shots, you've got what's the one that was quite interesting is the one where Pietro is asleep on the sofa, for example, and you see around him everything's blurry, but he's sharp, he's in vision, he's in focus, and then the kids are in the background also There's no
Focus.
one depth of fields where you've got the primary character at the front, who's super sharp, and then the rest is extremely blurry, like you see now in every single movie. The three characters were all super sharp, but then the around them was blurry. That's a technique that was used in the early 2000s a lot. I think it was used in, I think Malcolm in the Middle. They used that.
Yeah.
They used that a
Yeah,
lot.
they did.
I think I did see that.
Oh, and every action movie in the early 2000s, it's got the same aesthetic and the same kind of like fuzzy, but not fuzzy, but everything's like super fast and like hyper stylized and stuff like that. Like, I 100% agree that was done a lot during that time.
Which is one technique they use. So there's that scene when they're in the trick or treating, and if you've got that one camera shot, where it's literally just level head of, like that's it will be like you'll be filming and speeding around and quickly get to the main characters and sound effects and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting. I think that's the only thing I picked up on, really, in terms of because they pretty much used that style, Malcolm in the Middle. I thought it would be, there was a slight nod to the MTV feel, I think. To me, it felt familiar in that aspect. Again, it's pity I could not relate to Malcolm in the Middle in any way, shape, or form. I was sort of hoping they'll go with Friends, bit of an intro, with like a fountain and somebody falling back. 2000. But yeah, there was that. Shall we move on? Let's move on and go through the plot. I think let's go point by point.
Wait, no, hold on. I want to come back to that point. Like,
go on.
Because I mean, I think we had a little exchange with David over the text chat about like, there's a couple of shows that could have been nominated instead of Malcolm in the Middle that were squarely 90s, because Malcolm in the Middle, and David picked up on this, is not actually 90s. It started off literally in 2000.
Yeah.
So you could officially call it 90s technically, but it ain't. Really.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. But when is Malcolm in the Middle? When was that first aired? It was like
2000.
Like January 2000, yeah.
So we've got 3 episodes left, so we might get 2010s then in episode 7, which would be Survivor. I don't know what was hot in 2010. I don't know.
The rumors are that it's going to be Modern Family.
Right.
Based on the trailer, you can tell it will, because they do like the mockumentary, like staring into the camera thing, like Office type, that eventually like led to whatchamacallit, Modern Family.
Well, I guess when you mentioned also how it was shot, the literally breaking the fourth wall, which is talking to the camera and explaining what's happening and then walking the audience through the plot. So that that's also a technique that was that was popularized by Malcolm in the Middle, I guess.
In terms of sitcoms,
In terms of sitcoms, yes. That's important to point out. Which is, I think maybe, like you said, the next episode might be a bit more reality TV or orientated, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see a crossover between sitcom and reality TV.
Yeah, I think maybe part of the problem with the I don't know. Maybe part of the problem with the 90s was that it had to be taken from a family show, right? Maybe they struggled to bridge that gap. Even if they'd taken, like JCU suggested, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which would have been amazing. But then I do wonder if the appropriation question would have come up.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the fact that show actually started in the 80s and ran into the 90s. And there's a few shows like that. It seems that a lot of the like early 90s shows actually started in the 80s and ran through. And then that made me think that actually when you think about like Full House and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure Full House ran into the 90s. Like it started in the 80s and ran into the 90s. So I think there was sort of that, well, we've done these shows that sort of towed the line of both decades. So now we'll jump to the early 2000s.
Yeah, Full House was 87 to 95. So
so
I'd say equally into
right?
both decade. It's hard to I mean it did look 80s for most of its run to me in terms of visuals. So I don't know where to put it in. I think 80s.
And the other thing is, I think that actually in terms of a mechanism to move the plot forward, I just think that Malcolm in the Middle is a better device.
Sure.
In that, if you think about it, if he were to done, I think David mentioned as well, like we should do Seinfeld, and that would have been super funny, but it would have been much harder to move the plot along because they would have had to do all the Seinfeld tropes to make it feel authentic before they could start to like move the plot along, which we got with like the bring people over for dinner scene and all this sort of stuff. That those sitcoms felt very original, but not a lot happened plot wise in those, right? And in this one, they needed to move the plot forward to set up the third act. So Malcolm in the Middle, one, getting to talk to the audience, that moves it along. Second, Malcolm in the Middle never had a sitcom format outside of talking into the camera and the fact that the kids were always getting into trouble, right? So they could cover that off super quickly and still have the plot points that we needed to move forward. So I think part of it was convenience, which is kind of a shame in some ways, but I kind of get it when they did it.
Well, it's up to them. They could have done episodes of 1 hour long episodes, and they didn't have to speed up going through. But I guess every sitcom is a half an hour episode, right? You can't really justify if you're gonna say you'll copy sitcoms. You're not gonna go. Here's an hour long episode. It's only usually the last episode of every single sitcom. There's an extra, a little longer, just to tie up all the loose ends. Right. Enough of how it looks and what it feels like. Right. So we've done the intro, which funny enough, if we're going through the plot now, the intro, the only character, if you notice, with so they all get their names, like Wanda Maximoff, but then the only one to get something special is Pietro Maximoff as himself, which again, for the audience, like, look, it is him. It's not somebody dressed as Pietro. It's not a dead body, or is it? It's really him. It is from a different. It looks different, but that's him. Right. So what do we want to talk about? Where should we start this? There's so much. It's like I don't even know what's important and what's not anymore in that one. There's just so much.
Dude, just jump into the Easter eggs, because I think the Easter eggs actually tie to the theories more than they have in the past. So I think that'll naturally lead us into it.
Who wants to pick the first one? I think I like to go with the Easter egg that made me laugh. I actually can't remember what YouTube channel picked up on that one. It's close to the beginning. I think it's the first scene when they're all in the house and they're getting ready to go out for trick and treating. I like the Pietro one. I think it's a bit of a reach, but the tattoo one, I don't know if people have noticed that one. There's a bunch of videos out there. So I don't think I'm the only one who sort of agree with that one. But Pietro's got a tattoo that spells out mom on his left shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's like, and at an angle, it also could look like HOM. And people are like, look, House of M. And I went, ooh, that's a cool one. That's a cool one. But I feel like I'm reaching, even though I watched a couple YouTube video on this and I read a couple blogs about it, and I'm still feeling like it's a bit of a weird one. But let's say it was made on purpose. It was just the angle, and it's got a mom tattoo there. And I don't know if it's a fake one. I don't know if it's a real one. And that's why I'm putting that Easter egg as a maybe Easter egg, and I think I just get rid of it. It's on my list. Let's just move on. Let's not pay too much attention to that one. The other Easter egg that I thought was cool was the when they reminisced about going out trick or treating in Wakanda in Sokovia, which is a weird thing also, because what was Sokovians trick or treat?
It wasn't trick or treating, was it? She said something like, "Do you remember that boy who used to steal your something or other?"
No, that's much further. That's when they talk about. It's when they talk about being in in an orphanage. I think that's
they're dressed up.
Yeah. So I think it's still part of the beginning, and you see them as young kids, Pietro and Wanda, and funny enough, they are dressed as Black Widow and Nick Fury. And I think if you, I was like. I didn't pay attention to it, and I went on second viewing. I went, "Oh shit, yeah, they did. It's Nick Fury. Look at that." So I thought that was a sweet little nudge to both of them who are gone.
Well, Fury's alive.
Well, no,
Fury will be back,
and Fury's getting his own show,
which
is about damn time too. Yeah.
Did you guys pick up on anything else around there? I think there's so many. Again, there's so many little ones. There was the one, again, I don't know if it's like the tattoo, and I don't know if you noticed that. There's one point where Vision's about to head out to go on patrol around the town, and he goes like this with his arm, like an X.
Well, so
and people are like, "Look, X-Men."
There's a huge one there. It's like,
yeah.
Am I just totally off? Was like, does Pietro have like the Wolverine hairdo, or is that? Am I just reading too much?
He's got a Wolverine hairdo, but isn't that also his hairdo in the comics?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It is? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that. Okay, fine.
Which I had the same reaction than you. I went, "Oh, look, Wolverine," and then I went, "No, actually, I did look up pictures of old Pietro because I was watching it. I was looking at their old costumes in the old comics." There's like obviously again that's another Easter egg of them being dressed the way they are.
Yeah.
They use the Halloween episode to put that in there. The vision looks like a traffic light. And then what was the other one? Yeah, Wanda saying that she looks like an old Sokovian fortune teller, which actually her mom is Juan apparently in the comics, right?
Yeah.
Again, little Easter egg there. It was fun.
Not an Easter egg, but a little Marvel criticism when he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm dressed as a Mexican wrestler." I'm like, that actually it tracks. Mexican wrestlers do dress that way. But then he's like say something in Spanish or something. He's like, "Chile con carne," and I was like, I nearly slapped Kevin Feige right there, man. I was like, dude, chile con carne is not Mexican. It's not even close to Latino. Like. Oh, that bugged me so much.
You know what?
Brown blood boiled that day, buddy.
I almost wet my pants.
And I knew you were gonna pick up on it. I knew you were gonna, because it's the equivalent of them going like, "I'm dressed like as a Frenchman," and then he goes like, "I love French fries." It literally is the equivalent of that.
It's the equivalent of that, but then also reminds me every time I went to the Canary Islands where my wife is from. And you've got, and you used to go out, especially that's pre-kids, right? And we used to go out and where all the Brits go on holiday, and then you've got like all the drunks walking around going, "Oh, I speak Spanish," and you're like, "Go on." It's like, "Chili con carne." You're like, "Nah." Well, yes, it is Spanish, sure, but that's not. This is
not. Tell you,
okay.
The only place that comes from is from a can, dude. It does not come from Mexico or the rest of Latin America. Anyways,
I did think about you when that happened. I was like, I'm sure JC is about to slap his TV.
I paused and I was like, let's carry on. But I had to take a breath.
Breathe out.
Kevin Feige, come on now, you know better, buddy. All righty.
Right.
So,
any other Easter eggs? I think mine's are a bit further down in the storyline.
I kind of want to come back to like the House of M thing. So I'm going to throw this out there. I'm kind of not in the House of M like boat anymore. Like I feel like if they do it, I'm kind of gonna be a little bit upset.
You know how Marvel does it? They always take inspirations from stories and then they tweak them and they go with the slightly different to the original material. So it's not. I don't think they'll full on stick to that.
I hope not, man, because it's like if Mephisto shows up, outside of like the nerdy theories we have, the show doesn't actually give us anything to believe that. Really, like it doesn't set up the character in any way for the payoff to be there. We're like, oh, look, it happened. It's like I'm not emotionally invested in Mephisto showing up because I don't perceive any threat from him. Right? I don't feel that in any way.
They're doing. It might be that character shows up, but not at the end of this show. I think they'll do, if it is Mephisto, I think they'll do what they've done with Thanos, which the first few movies or the first few Avengers films, he's not really mentioned. What you see is the people that are that are doing his bidding. That like Loki was doing work for him. Yeah, you got a couple scenes where you see like a purple guy, but you don't really know. Well, you do know who he is, but like it's not really the first threat you're thinking about. It's like, well, Loki is trying to take over planet Earth, or you're thinking the Winter Soldier is the guy who's the bad guy, and then he's got all this Ultron. So it's not maybe. He'll be the end game, he'll be the big baddie, but we only get a bunch of reference to him, like there's that scene in one episode when they in that church and there's the painting of the devil behind them in WandaVision. So that's sort of a reference to it. But actually, whilst we're talking about Mephisto as a baddie, the one thing I do also agree is that I don't know if he's going to be the bad guy. And there's a lot of again, other YouTube videos that talking about this, is that obviously Marvel belongs to Disney, and Disney wants, at the end of the day, they want to make that cash. And right now, the biggest market for cinema tickets and subscriptions is China. And in China, you're not actually allowed to have anything that has to do with religion. Any religious references in your movies will be banned. So having the devil himself as a baddie sort of would be a bad move for Marvel, because they'll be maybe not losing the market in China, but they'll be in serious trouble with trying to justify the use of that guy. It's like there's a bunch of stuff like that. The laws are super strict in China, like not allowed to have talking animals, for example. So do you remember the movie Babes with little talking pigs and animals in the farm? That's banned in China. So imagine that with the devil, where where you have something that is even more it's not only China. There's a lot of cultures around the world where the devil just being mentioned is something that is maybe not banned, but frowned upon. It's not maybe well received. But
I think it's something that they'll be able to sidestep, to be honest, because I think the two biggest, they've made three steps to avoid getting into trouble with the Chinese market. One was changing the name of Captain America to the First Avenger, so that it didn't have America in the title. What was the second one? The second one was in Doctor Strange. What is her name?
Oh, in Doctor Strange, they had the Chinese doctor, right, showing up there like an extra 4 minutes of something else. I don't know if it was in Doctor Strange.
Well, the Sorcerer Supreme is played by a white woman, and she's not from Tibet.
Yes,
that's right.
Where she is in the comics, and that's obviously because China doesn't believe Tibet should be recognized as anything other than part of China. And then there were things that they did to sort of minimize the fact that Black Panther was full of black people. Because
that's the thing
of not only China but large swaths of Asia just aren't very accepting of black people on screen.
Hence why Star Wars removed John Boyega from the posters, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. And I'd say, David, that's an extremely nice way of putting it, because it's flat out racism. But yes, I agree that they're going to make adjustments, and also the associations with the color red are going to come into play, because that's a very important color in China. And if it's associated with like a demon and stuff, that might not play well.
But they did have that demon in the beginning of Thor, who actually ends up saving the day in a weird way, even though he's destroying.
Thor, the second
Asgard.
one.
The third Ragnarok. Is it called Ragnarok? The third one. Yeah, Ragnarok.
Yeah, the third one.
There's a demon at the start. Thor's hanging upside down, and the demons.
Yes.
The one who's playing Ragnarok. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that could be that. I mean, I'm not saying that's Mephisto, but that could be Mephisto if you really want it to be. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
But it's funny, all that thing sort of ties up with who I think now is going to be the baddie, with Mephisto's brother, Nightmare. But again, that's in the theories later on. If you want to jump into that now, but I guess
so. It's not his second cousin. I could have sworn it's gonna be his second cousin, dude. It's like, Marvel's second cousins, man. It's like,
second cousins, yeah, sure. Why not?
They're dangerous.
No, it'd be straight up brother. None of that second cousin stuff. Anyone else got an Easter egg apart from that? I've got a couple more I could mention.
Go for it, man. That's all I got.
That made me laugh. Which I think, again, the one that is like the Easter egg inside of an Easter egg, which the conversation between Wanda and Pietro when they are outside in the middle of all their conversation, very deep questioning of Pietro and Wanda questioning Pietro back. The kids are excited to go and pick up some more candies, and they're like, okay, let's go together, and then Pietro says, oh, kick-ass, and then Wanda says kick-ass, and that's like Easter egg inside of an Easter egg.
That's an amazing Easter egg.
And I was like, when she said it, I went, oh, kick-ass. And then Ellie was looking at me like, So for those who don't know, both of the Pietros, or Quicksilvers were in Kick-Ass, so they're like best friends in Kick-Ass, I think, if I remember well.
Yeah.
Kick-Ass belongs to Marvel, but it's not in the MCU universe. Well, sorry, the MCU, not MCU universe. That'd be repeating myself. Some people were excited about it, and they were like, "Oh, look, that means they're gonna put Kick-Ass in the MCU." I'm like, "Nah, they get roasted into sex." But the funny thing is also, so apart from the two Quicksilvers being in Kick-Ass, and they both Quicksilvers, and the director of Kick-Ass is also the director for X-Men Days of Futures Past. So it's like an Easter egg within an Easter egg of Easter egginess, which I thought was pretty cool. And I'm sad also that I'm the only one who got it whilst I was watching it. And, we all sat on the sofa and I was like, Kick-Ass, no, they didn't get it. And then the other one, which is again within the conversation between Wanda and Pietro, and then Wanda is trying to see if it is the real Pietro she's talking to, and then she is asking a question where she's, to me, I think, mentioning the X-Men indirectly, and the questions about the orphanage when they grew up after the parents died. And I agree with that. I think she was mentioning what's his face, Professor Xavier's school for gifted kids or whatever it's called.
Yep.
And then she mentioned the kid with a skin condition, and I was like, well, there's a bunch of guys that have skin conditions in the X-Men, So right there, I was like, yeah, that's definitely. They're trying to do this little thing where they're dropping X-Men references all throughout the episode, and I think that was maybe the obvious one.
Yeah.
Although the dude in Deadpool, is it Colossus? The guy made of metal. He's got a skin condition, and he's, if I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong, but isn't he Russian? Which would make it like somewhat adjacent to Sokovia. So that and that he's in the MCU.
Bang! That was my Deadpool. Now, you see, my Deadpool connection from last week. You should have come in.
If Deadpool's a big bad, I'd be so happy.
I might lose my shit.
I had one from a similar point in the show during that conversation. I can't remember exactly what he says. I need to rewatch it with subtitles or something. But Quicksilver brings up Shangri-La, which is believed to be a fictitious place, like a temple, which was actually founded by Vision himself. So that's another.
So that's like his like Fortress of Solitude sort of thing.
Kind of, yeah. And he was meant to sort of. The ironic thing is he was meant to. He supposedly discovered the secrets of life there, and he sought to keep it, like the whole place, a secret. So some people believe it's fictitious, and some people obviously believe it's a real place. But it's an interesting parallel to the Hex and whether it's real or not, and then also mirrors what Wanda's trying to do with the Hex by keeping it as some kind of sacred place. I thought that was interesting.
Nice, interesting, dude. I didn't catch that one at all. Nice. And did anybody get anything from? And I haven't looked into this yet, but from the kids' costumes, like outside of Nick Fury and Black Widow, like the kids, the regular kids' costumes. Was there anything there?
The kids are sticking to the original colors from the comics. I mean, like one is green, the other one is blue, and that's about it.
Oh no, not those kids. The other kids.
Yeah,
the other kids that just showed up. Yeah, that showed up. I didn't get a chance to really look at the costumes, but I remember like a pirate costume. That's about it.
Yeah, no, there's a bee costume someone has, and it's like it's
Wasp.
It would be a it'd be a reach.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I think would be a reach.
I don't think there was anyone. I did. There was a video, again, another YouTube video, but the guy was like, "No, there's nothing. I don't think that guy found anything. I don't think anyone else has made any videos about it." So I don't think there was anything to that. The one that is funny though that I did look up because somebody actually on our Instagram page, shout out to him, said, "Hey, look, there's one there on the license plate, Agnes' license plate, which is at the stop, and like it says OA1B2C, or you could read it DA1, so I've write that down. But it said, that's a code, the hex code for red. And I was like, let's look that up. So hex code is what the code is for if you go into Photoshop. Every single degree of color has a different code. So if you want to use that exact same color into another Photoshop like we do, for Instagram account, you just copy that code onto your next project, and that would be the exact same grade of color used twice. So somebody said, yeah, license plate is the code for red. I don't know. I did look it up and I couldn't find it on Photoshop. I did copy it and I went,
oh, right. It didn't work.
So maybe it could be on another software, but if somebody knows that, please let me know, because it's not a Photoshop thing to me.
Because we really care, so please get back to us and really clear this up.
JC, this is the sort of shit that gets in my brain and never leaves until
inquiring minds want to know, people.
It could be like HTML or some sort of web script.
Could be
color,
HTML
because those
also,
are slightly different, aren't they?
So the Photoshop one starts with a hashtag. And then a bunch of letters and numbers, but I think that one there's no hashtags. Anyway, doesn't matter. I think this one is a bit of another stretchy reach, if you want.
Little bit.
Anyway, let's move on. I think we've got enough historics for now. Let's move on to theories.
Yes,
because that's what you want to talk about, JC.
Yes.
Theories. Did we want to go? Was it for theories that you guys said maybe we should go and take one theory or a theme or something that we will take with us to our grave and say, look, this is something I believe is happening and I will stick to it until I die. Even after we get answers, I will stick to it. Was that you, Dave, who mentioned that, right? I think you said we should try that.
I don't mind. I agree. I don't mind doing it for sure.
Should we go with theories we will take with us to our grave?
This is where you splice in like the score to Game of Thrones, and we call it Game of Theories.
Game of Theories.
New pod segment.
Oh no, on the spot. Okay, cool. Let's do that. All right. So,
who's Khaleesi?
Where did I come with it? I'm just I mean, I've got a bunch of stuff that I wrote down on our doc, which was funny, but there's one theory that again had to do with Mephisto and Nightmare and how they linked to everyone,
stop, hold on. Yeah. But Wanda is Khaleesi. If you think, wait for it. She is basically being gaslit this entire series, as was Khaleesi. She was just being given like all this information from different people, not knowing what to make of it, but still knowing that she had an urge and a purpose to do something, right? So not far off.
Do you think they're copying? That's not good.
God, well, the question is it are they gonna flub it at the end the same way they did with Game of Thrones, which I hope not.
I would, like people are doing right now, #cancel Disney Plus. You know, that's the thing apparently.
Yeah, the Gina
I want there's too much good stuff. I can't.
That's a separate episode.
That's another topic. That's another episode.
On stars doing stupid stuff after they've gotten their big break. It's just
all these years you worked so hard and you messed it up with a tweet. Congrats.
For no reason. Anyways, so let's get into the theories. Let's make that a segment, right? So everybody has their own kind of like universal theories that we will come back and defend or crush to a smithereens nothing.
We will be able to verify. That's the fun part. I think, Dave, you can start because you're sticking to the same. You're sticking to the same one, right? Go on.
Always. I mean, to be honest, this episode has me like hanging by a hair, and I have no hair. So, my theory is, and will always be that Wanda isn't 100% in control. That there is some external party influencing her or involved in some way, because even if we are to believe what Monica said when she was expelled from the Hex, it's Wanda, it's all Wanda. And we've now seen Wanda manipulate the Hex in two ways, adding the red shield and expanding its range. There's still some things in there that kind of give me hope for my theory still. And one of them is Quicksilver and the way he's acting, Pietro. He's behaving in such a strange antagonistic manner. And as you said, when you were going through the plot, he said Vision can't die twice, but he also says he doesn't remember anything he doesn't remember anything between. He mentions, is it the 70s or the 80s? And then he references Vision dying twice. He can't have both of those notions and be honest or truthful.
But he can't, because also he said like last thing he remembers is getting shot and then hearing Wanda's voice calling for him.
And
like,
she wasn't anywhere near him.
Exactly. But then it's like, okay, so what happened? Like in that time Vision died, like you wouldn't remember that. You wouldn't know that. So, yeah.
Exactly. So there's something up with him. And then, yeah, what was the other one? Someone else being in control still.
Oh, Agnes?
Agnes, yes, thank you. The way Agnes behaved when she was freed from Wanda's powers. Right? If we're to believe that her and Herb all of us are being controlled by Wanda, why is it that they are able to break character and Norm couldn't break character and those people on the outskirts can't break character? Right? Because even if she is controlling them, which is what we're led to believe, is that her power isn't reaching out to all of these people. And that's why the further you get away from her and the center of the hex, the less power she has over them. Why aren't they just showing more agency then? Those would be my questions. And yes, that's my corner, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
Jason.
All right, Tomas Arnal, or do you want me to go?
I can go. Okay,
I'm happy to go.
Yeah.
If you don't have one, you have one?
No, I've got one. Which okay, I'll try and be as concise as possible. I think to me we're gonna get. That's the one. I know we'll get an answer fairly soon, within the next 3 weeks. But I'm sticking with the theory that we are gonna get Doctor Strange. That's gonna be the big cameo
finale
that's
reveal.
Gonna come in. The reveal. Well, not the reveal of the body, but the reveal of Doctor Strange is gonna step in to give a hand. And there's the one reason where, which the last shot of the episodes of episode 6, sort of pointed me towards that theory, and I was like, dude, this like director Hayward had a grip again, a sort of grip or understanding of the situation, and he was there controlling and making sure everything wasn't getting out of hand. And then the last thing you see from him is him literally driving away, shitting himself, if you will, and losing control of the situation, meaning that the situation will need somebody who is a hell of a lot more powerful and on the same sort of turf than Wanda. So as in magic powers, and somebody that can regulate or play with reality also, because that's one of the famous saying from Doctor Strange in, was it Infinity War thing, when he's talking to Tony Stark, and it's like, Tony Stark goes, what do you do? And he's like, well, make sure you're controlling your reality or something in that effect. So he's also able to control things happening around him, and he's got the time stone. He can rewind if something goes too crazy. So I think, and you need a wizard, and also because obviously WandaVision is going into Doctor Strange 2. So I think that would be a nice link. And so the one which is a bit part of the same theories, which is, I think to me, is a bit of a reach again, but I like reaching today. I don't know why. And it's a theory that I've seen going around, and I started to think about it. Is the relationship with Agnes, which will lead to having Doctor Strange, which is linked to Doctor Strange. So we know Agnes is a witch, or we can assume she's a witch. I mean, it's sort of been shown now in the episode when she got switched on and laughed like a witch. So, but every time she's mentioning her husband, what's the name of the husband again?
Ralph.
Like in episode 1 or 2, I can't remember. I think it's in episode 1 when she says, the only date that Ralph will remember is the 5th of June. So the 5th of June is the Salem, what's it called?
Salem witch trial.
Salem witches trial. And so that would link that, she is a witch, obviously. And part of the trial, I think in the comics, she gets burnt alive, like all the witches are getting burnt alive. So one of the theories that she's getting burnt alive, and she's like, well, actually, shit, I don't want to die. Like, and she doesn't have the power. She can't use her power at that point because she's dying. So she's asking for any higher power to go, hey, like, help me out and I'll be yours forever. I'll be doing your bidding. The only one that is replying is Mephisto. He's the only one that's like, hey, yeah, you're a witch. I could use your services. So you're now mine. So they're bound to each other. So Mephisto says, look, I'll help you. I'll kill everyone that's trying to kill you right now. But you're mine. You've got to do my biddings when the time comes. And that's where you have to go back into Doctor Strange and the Ancient One, who says she uses the time stone to, she's about to die. And she says she's using the time stone to go into the future or go around time and look at different potential threats and then act upon those threats before they become a real something that is out of control. So you can assume that maybe she saw Mephisto or Nightmare. And she said, look, these guys could be trouble, so I'm going to cast a spell on those guys. And as long as I'm alive, they can't do shit. Then she died. And then let's again assume it's a massive reach. I'm stretching as hell. But let's assume that those casts that she spelled, or those spells she casts, upon anyone were transferred to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is there. He's doing his thing. He's carrying on. He's somewhat aware of those guys, but he's like, okay, they got a spell on them. They're cool. They're not being in trouble. Bang, he got snapped. What happened? Those guys are now free again. I'm losing my mind. So they're free again, and they're free to roam around and go, hey, there's that Wanda there. She's crazy. She's got powers. Well, she's there. She can help us out with taking over the world. And now, bang, they've attached themselves, with the help of Agnes, onto Wanda. And now Wanda is under the spell of Mephisto / Nightmare. And that's why Doctor Strange will come back, because now he's seen these guys are back again. Well, our Nightmare is there, and he's got to take care of these guys. And bang, you got your Nightmare guy at the end of WandaVision, before Doctor Strange 2. And bang, because that big thing also, the Nightmare was the guy who was supposed to be the big baddie in Doctor Strange 2. That was sort of confirmed a long time ago. So that kind of links everything together. So if you manage to follow me in my thinking, and I see JC's face is like, nah.
No, I'm just processing, dude. That's a lot.
Process. Like, it's a lot. But again, I think it's not going to happen. But I'm gonna stick to that. Doctor Strange coming up in the next, I don't know when. I'm not saying it's going to be in the next episode, but I'm thinking, maybe episode 8.
No, so what you said is not mutually exclusive to what David said, right? It's giving more, like it's a way of confirming what David just said a few minutes ago. My only hang up with that, it tracks, like that could be in a comic book easily, is that you'd have to start the next episode setting all that up for it to deliver. Like there's so much plot to advance while still maintaining the sitcom model, still like checking in on like Sword and stuff. So I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm saying that what you're saying might play out across WandaVision and Doctor Strange, because you need more time to play all that out. But it's
you can
it would explain a lot.
You can start it in WandaVision. It doesn't have to pay off just now. But also remember this: there was a bunch of on-set photos that got leaked last year or 2 years ago of the actress that plays Agnes dressed as a witch, not the same costume that we've seen in episode 6, something a lot more ancient. And it's clearly her. It's not. They're not fake. So I think they did film something to do with her, like going slightly in the past and her being a witch, an actual real witch. So I think that could be linked to that. Maybe that's going to be footage that's never going to be used for WandaVision. Maybe that'll be used if this is true, right? That could be used much later on in maybe Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel too. I don't know. Or never.
Or maybe the actress just decided to dress up as the witch one day to like basically
maybe she's
troll everyone.
Maybe she's just emo. And she's like,
You never know. Okay, cool. No, dude, but I like it, dude. That's you did some deep research for that one, buddy.
Well, that was very impressive. But yeah, like you said, I do agree with to an extent with Dave with his theory of who's controlling who. So I don't think it's just Wanda. There's more to it. What you got?
So I've adjusted my last theory, just for the sake of anybody that didn't tune into the previous ones. My theory initially was that Wanda, within her hex, all the people that are in the hex will become mutants. They'll be scattered across the U.S. and Falcon and Winter Soldier have to go track them down. And Loki is going to go back in time and try to fix stuff at some point, based on what happened. Kind of. I'm now kind of like I'm adjusting that because I think I got caught up in the X-Men. Like this is our passage to X-Men, the same way that like we're also talking about like this is our way of getting our next big bad, Mephisto. And I agree 100% that Wanda's not in control. That I'm super agree with. But I'm coming back to what is the series about? And the series is called WandaVision. At the end of the day, so it has to be about them, is my view. And I look at their arcs, and if you look at who has the classic arc, right, of like character discovers something about themselves, has a reason to do something, then goes do it. The only person that has a true arc is Vision, is my view. Like all of the rest seem to be going along, but they're not growing or changing. But Vision from the get-go has been questioning. The questioning is increasing. And then to me, this episode was the breakthrough. Vision can't go back now. He can't go back to just acting normal. He can, it's impossible because of what he's gone through. So now it sets up the third act for Vision to do something for Wanda to react to, right? So it's got to be somehow caught up in the two of them. So my theory now is kind of that Vision is going to set forward a chain of events that Wanda isn't in control of either, because he's somehow going to stand between what Wanda's doing and who's controlling her. And we'll get an inkling as to who is the background player in the same way that Thanos was set up, to your point earlier, David, of like, we knew about Thanos earlier, but he wasn't a big player. He was just kind of like pulling the strings, right? Why I think that we don't get Mephisto in this series, but we do get Mephisto in, and this is tying to what you said, Tom, in the Doctor Strange movie. Funny enough, is because Sam Raimi is directing that. Like, who would you rather get to like direct like a demonic possession of some sort than Sam Raimi? Is like that's his thing, man. And Marvel has not done horror ever really at this scale. So it's like Sam Raimi is perfectly set up, because if you think about it, when you think Sam Raimi and the Marvel world, it's like you think Spider-Man. Why would you cast him, why would you bring him in for a director for Doctor Strange? So now to me, it's like, all right, they're getting set up for like this big like demonic moment or some sort, right? So then what happens for me at the end of this series is Vision is somehow in peril or becomes lost to Wanda. She's no longer with him. She no longer has him in the hex, and she tears across universes to find him. And to your point, Tom, and this I 100% agree with, and Doctor Strange shows up to then go, let's go find your husband. And then we leave it there, and we sets up the movie.
Yes, I like that.
So that's my only take on this, because I'm just trying to like coming back to like, what is this actually about? Because it's what I want it to be, and I desperately want it to be the X-Men, but it won't. I don't think it will.
Keep in mind they have mentioned that at the end of the last episode, the ending of WandaVision is going to be super emotional and you know, so there's going to be something happening with Vision, I guess.
That
make us cry.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, you can see that coming after episode 6. You can see that coming kind of a mile off. No, I like that theory as well. I do like that theory. I'm not sure that's what the Multiverse of Madness would be about, just because I don't think the resolution to a Vision search is strong enough to carry a film, if you know what I mean.
Good point.
But yeah, I can understand her joining forces with Doctor Strange. I could also see it being the other way, and them actually having some conflict across the multiverse, just because she's I forgot.
Oh yeah, I know the word you're looking
Nexus
for.
Being or whatever. Yes. Yeah.
She's the same in all.
In all. all universes.
All universes.
She's the same across all universes.
So you know how some characters like what was it? Actually, what's an example for it? I think it was
Gamora. So
Gamora.
when they went back in time and Gamora didn't know. Does that count? I'm not sure that counts because that was back in time rather than across universes.
Spidey is
the
a perfect
Spider-Man.
example.
Of course,
Spider-Man's always different every universe, right?
Yeah, like just take the animated
Spider-Verse.
into the Spider-Verse, which is exactly that. So Wanda will be the same character over and over again across all
through them
universes,
all,
which is quite cool.
Yeah,
I like to think I'm a Nexus too.
Yeah. And just to tweak a little bit, the one that I nearly threw out was, and to your point, David, I think it made me reconsider it, is that it ends with still there's a loss, whether Vision gets lost to the multiverse or she truly loses him, like he dies finally and completely, that Wanda becomes the big bad.
Yeah.
Wanda's actually a big bad, and then it's actually Doctor Strange shows up to go find her across the multiverse, and she like just still tears open the multiverse, but more like I'm gonna go find just a bunch of Visions everywhere. Just kind of goes a little bonkers, and because she can, to your point, she's Nexus, then that would track actually, because that was my point. It's like, well, if she goes finding, she's gonna find herself, but that could work.
Go find
yeah, nice one.
Right.
I like it.
That was a good one. We got the good stuff. We can revisit that, I think, at the end of episode 9 to see who was right, who was wrong, who was sort of right, and who was sort of wrong. Let's move on to the themes, or maybe question time, to copy the BBC. Question time. We've got a few more questions. Who wants to go first? I think there's somebody who's got a question about pain. Somebody's in pain. What you got?
That was my question, but David can go first.
That was a question. All right.
Okay. So Wu and Monica have driven off to find this engineer.
Yep.
We theorized who it might be in the last episode. So I think I think I said it's probably not Captain Marvel because of the way that she responded when her name was mentioned. I brought up the idea of Reed Richards because we know the Fantastic Four are being introduced at some point. Victor Von Doom is a stretch. JC, you suggested Ironheart. And I think a while back you also suggested Wasp, I believe, is a aerospace engineer. But I want to throw another name in based on the internet. I've seen images of people suggesting it could be Beast.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, Beast. That could be one.
So that would be another way for them to start introducing X-Men into
that would certainly tick all the boxes, right?
And he's in pre-Beast mode, so he's just brainy at this point, but we see him become Beast in some point in the next series or whatnot. Yeah,
maybe not. Don't know, but yeah.
I guess this one we'll actually find out in episode 8.
Hopefully.
Sorry, 7.
7, yeah. But who do you guys think it would be?
I think it's going to be Beast. I think just for the fact of the crossing over of all everything that is going to be, everything X-Men and in terms of timeline and the way you could introduce the character into the story, like he's pre-Beast. Maybe he's gonna get into the Hex and become Beast. That's what could happen. Maybe he's gonna go and drive in the machine, and somehow it doesn't work as it's supposed to, and then he also gets mutant
powers. Yeah.
That could be that.
Because it avoids the Fantastic Four had to go into outer space to get their powers. Just totally because ultimately that never really mattered. The fact they were in outer space, it's just the fact they came back with powers, and then really the plot kicks off for them, right? So that could help that. I think it's Reed Richards, but who I wish it would be, kind of wishing that it would be Squirrel Girl, because she's she's in computer science. She's super smart and does computer science. So I'm like, it's not a stretch that she could become like an aerospace engineer. So like having Squirrel Girl show up and be like, I'm here to kick butts and eat nuts, and I'm all out of nuts. I'd be like so here for that.
That would be funny as hell.
That would be super.
Because she ends up teaming up with Miss Marvel, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
she's in the new Champions run.
Right. Yeah.
I started reading her comic just as pure curiosity because so many people had mentioned it, and
So weird. Yeah.
I get the appeal of it. I really, really do. But then I kind of got bored of it after like the second trade. And then my daughter picked it up and she's like, this is so cool, Daddy, read it to me. So I've been reading it to my daughter just to like, because she likes it. But as I'm reading it, it's actually kind of good. It subverts if in the not in the subverting stereotypes of heroes stuff. Like she never like actually beats up any bad guys. She just convinces them to like take a look at themselves and really ask themselves, what do I really want from life? She does it, and it's super funny how she does it. Especially the Victor Von Doom one is like how she defeats Victor Von Doom. You have to read it. It's just super, super good.
Oh, no, I need to find it. I need to find out.
Actually, Emily would get a kick out of it, dude.
I'm thinking
it's legit. It's legit. It's super good.
But
that's the only pull. Outside of that, I don't know.
You know who it could be? I think that would make sense in terms of not marketing, but in terms of introducing as many IPs as possible. Is like Reed Richards, I think, is the one that could be the one that's the most convenient for to Marvel, because now you're talking about X-Men a lot, and people are expecting X-Men, and they are coming.
Joe Morton for Reed Richardson. Do it, you cowards.
Nah.
Why not? He's totally the right. Maybe. Well, you actually probably want to cast him younger. Yeah. Old. Yeah. Good point.
But I think if you get Reed Richards in there, then bang, you've introduced Fantastic Four literally out of nowhere. It's like it doesn't have to be with any powers at all just now.
Yeah.
That can be left for like when the movie comes out. But it's like, hey, look, he showed up in that episode. That's it. You don't actually need to explain anything else. Like, you just need to name drop. That's it. And you've done your introduction work already for a later movie. So that's to me, if I was someone at Marvel, I'd be like, yeah, just get him in.
Yeah, it won't be a major plot point. You're right. It's just an intro, a setup for later, for sure.
Yeah.
For 100%.
It's like, look, what you've done is you've introed the guy. Everybody knows who. Like, we all know who he is. You don't need to go back and say, is he playing a double game? No, it's like, that's it, straightforward. The guy comes in, boom. Any other questions?
I do have one about like the pain thing. This does bug me a lot, actually, that we're constantly being shown how people are in pain. And if by the next episode they don't make Wanda somehow care about that, I'm going to be pissed, because it's been said enough, and it has to have implications. The fact that every time I see the sitcom, the only thing I can think of now when I see the people are like, they're all walking around in pain, like, and then Wanda can sit and just like shoot to shit with Pietro and talk about like the good old days and stuff, and they're all really in pain, like, and it's not like they sugarcoated it, like maybe one of them for some reason. No, they're all in it, and I'm like, how can that not matter more at this point? So I really hope in the next episode that becomes like a progression in the plot, that we see her whether care or not care, or someone care, or someone take joy in torturing them. Like one way or another, I need to see why that matters, because they introduced it not as an Easter egg. They flat out said they're in pain. So that was kind of buggy.
I think that'll be addressed. It'll be addressed when whoever comes in to say, hey, you need to, let's go with my theory of Doctor Strange dropping in and like, and trying to argue with her about you need to stop. And he could use the argument of saying, look, people are in pain. Or Vision might be the one saying, look, they're in pain, you need to chill.
But he already said that during their argument. Because after he had the conversation with Norm, and then he's left and come back, I feel like he will be the one to call her out on it.
Same.
But I think part of the reason why she hasn't immediately had a response to that is because the pain that they're feeling is her pain. And I doubt a funny thing about grief is sometimes you think you're the only one going through it. Like when you have a loved one die, it's like it's
your pain.
Yeah, my husband died, my brother died, right? You don't think about the other people that were connected to him. In this case, because it's comic books, like there aren't really any other great connections. But like, I think because they're literally feeling her grief, it's difficult for her to sympathize with them at all, because ultimately it's her grief they're feeling. So whatever they're feeling, she's feeling it even worse.
It will make sense because you remember that at the end of Infinity War, when she has to kill Vision, and the thing he says like, "Oh, I just feel you," and she's using her power over him to destroy the stone. And it's like, I think that's sort of linked in a way. There's that they're feeling her pain, more than because I also thought about it, and I was like, actually, are they in pain because it's like torture, as in like she's physically controlling everyone?
It's grief.
But exactly,
that's how Monica described it. She said it was grief,
and she said
was feeling her grief.
Yeah, and it's like, but it's exactly when Monica said, "Well, actually, it's her grief," and that's like, I sort of assume it was like, "Oh, it's pain of being physically controlled by someone else, and your brain's telling you I want to do something else." But it's not. Yeah, it's right. It's grief.
I wonder how's the connection. Something I heard just yesterday. It was another podcast. Was it a shout out to Infinity Pod? So you're right. You're right. It is grief, and for some reason, I kept associating with physical pain, but it is, which grief is physical pain as well, right? But you're right. But the only thing that I'll challenge is she feeling the pain? Because are they just the container or the receptacle for her pain, so she doesn't have to deal with it, and she's just passing it on to them, and it ties into
diluting your pain.
Correct. And this is what was mentioned in the podcast, but it connects to something else that they did say in the podcast, which was, what if? And I lost it.
You can't stop, JC. Can't stop. We carry on. What if?
And I totally lost what I was gonna say.
See, Wanda's controlling him.
Wanda's controlling him.
Dang
I can see a tear running down
her
her eye.
I know.
Let's backtrack.
What if, by the way, which is a
wait, what was it?
that
was a really fucking good point too.
We're talking about pain. Grief. Pain. Is it physical pain? No, it's grief. They're feeling her pain. How could she? Why wouldn't she feel sympathy for them? Maybe it's because they're feeling her pain, so she would feel it more.
Yeah, and she'll release him from when she blah 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 blah.
Or was she?
No, that's it. Sorry. All right, and I'm back. So 5, 4.
No, I'm not cutting this.
Oh, you're not cutting that out? Okay, fine. All right. Let's roll. Let's just make me look dumb. All right.
No. It's all natural. It's a natural.
Making
it's
me look
organic
dumb.
podcast. It's an organic vegan podcast.
Tuesday, dude. So anyways, this is what they said in the podcast. It was that every time that she somewhat started to question herself, or like somewhat lose that control over the situation, she sees the dead version of Vision or Pietro. And I'm like, I wonder if that has something to do with it, that as she is bringing back the grief into herself by starting to question these things, that's when she has those hallucinations, and hence her grief is stored in them for now, right? So that was a connection. Long time to get there.
That makes sense. That's a cool one.
So
kind of cleared my question, which was why is she seeing dead people? But yeah, I guess that could make sense.
See that, or maybe the whole time Bruce Willis is just never looking at her. No one got that one, really?
No, I got it.
Lost.
Sixth Sense. The whole movie,
yeah.
if you go back and watch it, Bruce Willis never looks at anyone. He's never having a conversation.
Which is unbelievable. Right, I think we got everything right.
On that note.
One more. On that note, on that
I got my last one.
Both of you do.
Yeah, I've got one.
Oh, actually, no, then you go, David.
Okay. So I always ask these kinds of very simple questions. I'm not going to save it for the ending this time. What happens if the twins leave the hex?
Yeah, we don't know. They'd be alive, I think.
I questioned Vision. Will he just fall dead? He kind of just fell dead, even though he was getting sucked back in. He clearly can't survive outside of the hex. Can the twins survive outside of the hex? And if they can't, can Quicksilver survive out of the hex?
And this is where the
For the
podcast
listeners?
format just fell on its face. And that's where you're
I
gonna
was
watch us
waiting
on
to see
YouTube.
for everybody out there, Tom and I were just nodding and agreeing at very different points. It's clear that we're not in sync. So, Tom, you go, buddy.
And that's a segue to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatest segue in the world. So, JC, do you have a final one, or do you?
Yeah, Hydra. My big question is like, is Hydra going to show up? Because I really hope they don't. I think we've done our Hydra business. I think Hydra can go hydrate somewhere else.
We are fully hydrated.
I just don't want to say. If you're fully hydrated, it's like I just wanted someone different to show up. It's like Hydra's been a constant theme. I'm like, come on, let it go. Like we can let this go.
A bit like Shield. We had Shield running through, like them as an organization, running throughout all of the phases of the MCU. It's like, okay, now we had Shield. That's cool. Now we have Sword.
Yeah, now we have Sword. So there needs to be a different bad guy or like baddest organization, because the theories we did earlier like clearly set up the cosmic universal time travel-y sort of element of this, but there's going to be another element of this that comes out, because clearly Hayward, sorry, that was one annoyance with the show. Hayward is overacting now. Like Hayward's just over the top. Like I was like, yes, we get it. You're a bad guy.
He went full on a-hole in that.
Yeah, it's like let's tone it down, big guy.
He also had that sympathetic moment where he said, like, you weren't here, you didn't have to deal with people being snapped away. And that's sort of a reminder of the way how bleak it was for people when Ant-Man came back during those 5 years and actually looked at the world and all of the tributes to the millions and billions of people that was snapped out of existence on planet Earth. So I think as much as he did continue to act like an a-hole, I think he's also, you have to remember that he had to deal with that. And then had to deal with Monica coming back. And they don't explicitly say it, but it seems like she was obviously being groomed to take over from her mother as the head of Sword. He's gotten the position because
and he doesn't want to lose that position.
Death. And now she's come back to sort of disrupt his power, essentially.
So is his power a glass ceiling? not bringing it the heat today, guys. Sorry, just not bringing it today. I'm like,
dad jokes. Which is what we're about, actually. My God, segue into
it's on brand. It is on brand.
But on the Hydra point, I don't think they're going to bring them back proper. But we do have Baron Zemo in the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is Hydra, and he could have his own offshot of Hydra, like Hydro.
You're right. Hydra's coming back. God dang it. Yeah. Because that to me is like it's now becoming clearer that the Hayward plot moment, or I guess just the Hayward story, is going to set up Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think that somehow will tie into Falcon and Winter Soldier, because he's a terrestrial threat, and clearly that they are very much in a terrestrial world. And if you look at the trailers, we don't actually get, outside of Zemo, we don't actually get who they're fighting. We're not shown that. What? And or what. So I think that Hayward's going to go off and create his own offshoot of whether it be Hydra or something else that's a response to, but to your point, David, it is very much a response to what happened with the snap, which is like those like ambiguously moral situations where it's like, no, he just never wants that to happen to the world again, but the way he's going about it really sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And then
which is very Marvel.
Yeah.
Very Marvel Comics. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like he might, whether he's the bad guy or sets up the bad guy for Falcon Winter Soldier, I still think there's a connection there. I just hope that they don't just come back. It's like, it's Hydra again, and we're like neo-Nazis or whatever. It's like, no, let's move on. let's create something else. Yeah, sure. But we'll see. If not, then it'll be okay.
Dave, did you have one last thing to say, or you don't want to say it anymore?
That was all. That's all I've got.
Right, I think we should wrap it up. We've been going
Yeah.
on for longer. And I think JC needs to go and grab lunch. You
Yes.
look like you need lunch. Right. Again, as every single week, every time we've been covering WandaVision, thank you for listening. Dave, thanks for coming on once again. Please plug your stuff one more time.
Yes, I am a part of the Grit and Grime basketball podcast. So if you are into basketball, search for us across any and all podcast platforms, at Grit and Grime Pod on socials, and support our YouTube page.
Yes, indeed. We will have a nerdy sports crossover episode with Grit and Grime. Space Jam is coming out. I think that could Space Jam 2
unite us.
Legacy. That could be what bring the two teams together and talk basketball or sports and nerd stuff. I think that could be a good idea. I think
For sure.
Right.
It's gonna be like when the ABA, the NBA came together.
The merger.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Merge.
nerds got to play with like the athletes. I like it.
It always goes well for the nerds. Right, so that's it. I'm wrapping up for episode 6 of WandaVision. Join us next week for our coverage. I was going to say, not talking sports terms, our recap of episode 7. Thank you again, Dave, for joining. Thanks, JC, for joining as well. And like they say in all good podcasts, please subscribe, share, like, retweet, re-Instagram us.
Rate, review,
anything you want to do. Thanks for the 650 something subscribers on Instagram. We are going up. Hopefully by this time next week we'll be at 700. We'll find out soon enough. That's it. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye.
See you.
the hex.
X.